with stuff. But, okay. So I'm excited to talk to you guys today a little bit just about being yourself on social media, specifically stories, so that inviting people into the business and into your challenge groups feels more authentic. So I'm going to start by saying, number one, Bella's probably going to squeak her toy because that's just my life. So apologize in advance. Two, I'm going to tell you like what works for me and what I do, but obviously this is not a one size fits all. So this is just what I found. These are my tips that I've implemented that I want to share with you guys. It is your business, so do as you please. But I have 5 tips on Instagram stories. I'm not Michelle, so I did not make a slideshow. That's not my jam, but I will give you my 5 tips and you guys can write them down. Okay, so number 1, the first thing to keep in mind is when you're talking on your Instagram stories, just think that you're talking to a best friend. I know it feels weird and it will get easier over time. But one of the biggest things I hear is people feel weird about like talking to the camera and they're like, it's weird, but just act like you're talking to your best friend on the other side of the phone. Be you, don't feel like you have to be someone else. It'll feel a lot more natural if you just picture your friend or you're just talking to yourself, like you're your own best friend, but don't feel like it needs to be scripted. Just be who you are. And number 2, share things that make you human and make you relatable. I think so often we're afraid to share any of the mess or any of the real life. And I think those are the things that make people feel like they can connect to you and can relate to you the most. Now, with that being said, I think there's a balance. Like we can't be sharing 100% of the time that we're a hot mess express. Like we want to make sure that we're sharing that we have something to provide and, we have it somewhat together, but also feel like you can be yourself. I think so often we're afraid to show up because we don't have I don't, but I think some people like they have their makeup done and they need to have this and they have it all together and they take 5 million takes because they mess up words and they screw up. But I think that's what makes you and makes people feel like they can connect to you. They want to feel and know that there's a real person on the other side of the screen. And so sharing the good days, the bad days, just the everyday life, I think really helps people feel connected to you, like they already know you, and that you're real. Number 3, I would keep typed up on the screen wording to a minimum. I personally hate reading. So if there's a ton of words, I'm just going to tap through. So getting bullet points or getting straight to the point, or just keeping your worded post to a minimum. I used to share my PD screen, but then I realized I wouldn't read it. So I don't really do that much anymore, or I'll highlight a part of it that I think is an important takeaway, but I try not to do too much wording, whether it's my story graphic invites or just stories in general. I try and stick to the most important parts because people have got time and they're passing through. You want to catch their eye. And if they see they have to read a long thing, they're probably not going to stop. Number 4, mix things up on your story. Routine is great. Consistency is great. And I think to a certain extent, it's important to share that. So pick a few things that you're going to share every day. So for me, I'm always sharing my workout. I'm sharing my energize, stuff like that. But I think it's really important to mix it up and not be the same thing day after day. Because then people don't feel like they need to come to your stories. If they see the same routine and the same thing, it's well, I saw our stories yesterday. It's the exact same. So make sure you're mixing it up. And that's where talking to the camera, like your friend, sharing the real life, the random things that you think no one cares about or no one wants to know, those are the things that people want to see. So whether it's you folding your laundry, cooking dinner, almost running out of gas and almost not making it to the gas station, whatever it is, make sure you share that. Those are the things that break up your content and keep people coming back for more. One of my favorite influencers I follow, she is really good at just sharing the day in and day out. And I look forward to seeing her stories every day. There's other influencers that I followed because I'm I feel like they post the same exact thing and it gets kind of stale. So mix it up, pick a few things that you're going to stick to sharing, and have that routine, but then also mix in the kind of fun, random things that are just life. And then number 5 is be you. Don't try and be someone else. You want to attract your people and your tribe of who you are. And if you're trying to be someone else, that's who you're going to attract. When I first started coaching, I followed like a ton of Beachbody coaches. I swear any coach, I'd follow all of them. And then I would start seeing what they're posting and what they were doing. And I would be like, oh, I like that. I want to start doing that. And it didn't feel me. And so I want to remind you that like those things that make you, you are special, and lean into those, share them. And that's how you're going to find your tribe. That's how you're going to find your people. So don't feel like you have to be like, you know, another coach on the team or another coach on the network. Yes, if you see something you like, feel free to implement it, but make sure you're just taking a little bit of it and you're still having you be the center. The goal when it comes to Instagram stories is that when people meet you in person, they're like, I already feel like I know you. You're the exact same as you are on stories. And if you're not being yourself, then there's a disconnect there. So my goal is always like when I have a new client in the salon, they follow me on Instagram. They're like, oh my gosh, so excited to meet you. You're just like how you're on stories. Like that's my goal. I mean, I hold back a little bit of the crazy on stories because you got to get to know me pretty well before I like let out the dog voice, but finding a balance. If John's in the room, he knows. Is your John in the room? No. So I'm gonna make sure I didn't miss anything on my notes. So when it comes to all of that with the stories, the goal is that there's already that connection where when you reach out and invite people on your stories, there's not that awkward, like, I don't ever really feel like I'm cold messaging people because I invite people that watch my stories. And I feel like if you watch my stories, you know who I am because I share day in and day out, like they're just going alongside life with me every day. And so I feel like they already know me pretty well if they watch my stories. And then I feel like I'm comfortable to invite them. And that's the goal, is that when you have someone who's viewed your stories, you feel comfortable to invite them. And if you're sharing authentically and sharing about the product, sharing about what you have to offer, when you go to invite them, there's going to be less objections because you've already shared how important the products are and how they've changed your life. So make sure you're implementing, you know, Beachbody products and you're sharing them how they fit into your life. But at the end of the day, that's the goal, is that when you go to reach out, they don't feel like it's someone weird and random. I invite all from stories. Get it, Bill? I invite straight from story views. I have found I personally don't like just like randomly starting a conversation on Messenger and then getting to the invite. It feels unauthentic. I would rather just straight invite and tell them that I've seen them watch my stories. I appreciate the love and just invite from there. So that's how I do it. I think everyone has to find with what they're comfortable, but those are my 5 tips. And then I figured I would open up if anyone had any questions specifically about stories or inviting or anything. Michaela, I can't get over how cute your belly is. I love it.
Thanks.
So cute. Does anybody have any questions about Instagram stories? No question stupid. Anything about inviting? Or Anna has her finger raised.
The engagement on stories. So like if you put a poll or a slider or, you know, those kinds of the stickers that create engagement. Do you have any way to help increase engagement? Like, I mean, I do the simple, like, you know, did you move today? I do that one, you know, semi regularly, and people I know, like my best friends aren't, you know, nobody actually reacts to it. And the only time that I get a whole bunch is if I move it too far to the side and people accidentally hit
actually click it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to get like, is it just like telling people like, click here? Like,
I think it's a couple things. One, just saying like, click my poll, I'm gonna put it right here. But also I just think that people are sometimes afraid to push it. I think sometimes people don't realize if they're watching your stories that we can see, and they think if they click the poll, like they're gonna know I'm there. We had a meeting with the Young Life kids, so high schoolers, and we were talking about the question box and like doing these things to engage. And they're all like, yeah, unless it's like a click button, like we're not really going to do it because it takes too much time. So I think that it's a combination of like people time, or they're just afraid. Like if they click that poll, we're instantly going to like send them a message, even though we're going to send them a message anyway. So I think that's really normal. A lot of times I do polls and I get no votes unless it's like, which outfit should I wear? Then everyone wants to give an opinion. But I think that's totally normal. That's not just a you thing. So I try, obviously I'm inviting from my views, but I try as much as possible in my post to redirect back to stories. So I will say like when we were working on our tiny home this weekend, I said like, I shared all the behind the scenes on my story, or like just redirecting people kind of back and telling them that, you know, you've posted stories so that they know, because really like the first few ones you see are people you watch consistently. So if they're not watching your stories consistently, they might not see them. So redirecting people as much as possible to help get the views, I think is the biggest secret, and whether they do the poll or not. The thing is about polls is unless you take the poll, you don't really know what percentage of people voted, and you don't know how many people voted. So if no one votes, nobody knows that except for you.
I do have a question. So, because you're very good at engaging all throughout the day, and I know you have a lot of your things, I believe, kind of preset, or at least kind of a little bit of pre-planning. But are you getting, I guess, do you get a ton of engagement because you're being really good, and are you scheduling them? Sorry, guys, hold on.
Oh, girl, I don't schedule or plan anything in my life. I wish I was that organized. I am the worst. No, I literally have on my Power Hour tracker to post an invite on my stories. And I make sure I get it done at any time. But I mean, I'm always going to share my workout whenever that is. But for me personally, like if I have a break in between my clients, I'm like running down the hall to grab lunch. I'm going to talk about that, or getting a coffee. Like I just share in the moment, and I really try not to think about it. I try and have a few things that I'm really purposeful about, and it's sharing my workouts, which half the time I'm like, I didn't even post my workouts today because I was running behind. And then I'll share at the end of the night, like, oh, remember that workout? Yeah, here's a clip. So I try and just be real. And one of my things is I'm like, I'm not organized. I'm not a morning person. Like Michelle slays the morning routine goals. That is not me. And I share about that. So I don't really plan. The only thing I have like planned is like my slides for my challenge group that I'll share the invite to. Yeah, not today. I did see that Michelle almost messaged you and say, you okay? But yeah, so I don't plan it. I just try and share the most mundane things because I think people are going to connect to different things. And so some people are going to connect, you know, because they like coffee and I share the coffee I drink, or share that. At one point I had said, I'm only going to buy coffee on Thursdays because I always get payday coffee on Thursdays. I always get it. I do boomerang. It's like my way of talking about payday coffee, like getting paid. But I had someone message me and said something about it's Wednesday and you bought a coffee. You're only supposed to get it on Thursdays. Because I'd said only gonna buy coffee on Thursday. And I just thought it was hilarious that someone remembered and was like holding me to it. The most mundane thing ever. And that was like a way for them to reach out and like us just talk human to human. That's always my goal, is like interact person to person before I get the opportunity to invite them. So yeah, to answer your question, not organized. And I joke that people know when I'm working because I post a lot less on my stories than the days that I'm not working.
Do you post everything that you post on Instagram, not story wise, but like actual posts? So everything you post on Facebook, do you post on Instagram, and vice
versa?
Yeah, that.
Yeah. Yeah, for the most part, I don't share all reels onto Facebook because I feel like it's such a pain to then find like sometimes audio doesn't transfer. But for the most part, yeah, some of my quotes I don't, because sometimes my quotes like are more filler to keep my page like symmetrical. So I don't think they're super great, but a lot of times I do. I don't usually click the share on Facebook tab. I actually copy the script and then go and post separately, because I heard at one point that helps views more. I don't know if that's real. That might be an outdated, but usually, unless it's like a quote or something, I don't just share straight from Instagram to Facebook. I post on Instagram, then I go into Facebook and I post it.
Okay.
I noticed Kate's background was her dog. Now it's her cat. Michelle, do you invite through story views, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Invite until they respond or until one of us dies.
Mm-hmm. For reals. Amen. Just making sure you didn't do it a different way. I've tried. Anna, how do you do it? Do you do story views or?
That's the most place that I do it from. Or if they like a post and they haven't really liked any others.
Yeah.
Because you always get like the same, 10 family members that like your posts, and then other coaches, and then there's like the stragglers. And so if it's them, then but mostly it's from stories, because when you are looking at your story viewers and then you message them from there, it like puts that little snippet of your story into their chat so they can see like where you're coming from. And that's what I like, is that it's not just like out of the blue. It's like, remember when you watched my story earlier? Like,
I see you.
I am. Yeah. Like, I know that you're watching.
Yeah.
And I know that you've been watching for 3 years and haven't responded to anything, but you're still watching.
Still there. You keep coming back for more. Yeah. And I mainly invite from stories. Sometimes I'll invite from a post, like you said. And I try and not make it awkward, because I think that's the biggest thing, is like, I feel like you've gotten those invites where you're like, I want to vomit. Like, that was so cheesy and so awkward. And so I try not to do that. And also, I don't want to invite someone and then them never like my post ever again because I invited them because they like to post. So I always keep it casual and say, hey, like, thanks so much. So for example, the one of me with my mixed bike with the foils in my hair, like, hey, thanks for liking, my post with my bike. Don't worry, my hair turned out okay. It was a little touch and go. Appreciate the love. Were you wanting information on the bike, or were you just giving some love? Either way, I appreciate it. Like, I always add in there, I always ask, were you just giving love, or were you interested in more info? And I thank them. And a lot of times they'll say like, oh, just sharing the love. And I'm like, I appreciate it so much. If you ever want more info, I'm here. Or they'll say, just sharing the love. Like, you're so inspiring. I wish I could do what you do. And then that can kind of open a door into an invite. But I feel like just thanking them, I think, goes a long way. Like, hey, it's kind of like scary to be vulnerable sometimes. So I appreciate you giving the love. And I feel like I get way more responses that way because I'm like asking that. So that's been really helpful for me. And then as for stories, kind of similar, like, hey, I thank them for watching my stories, and then just say like, I don't know if you saw, if you're interested, I'd love to share more. If not, like, no pressure at all. You popped in my head. I thought I would shoot you an invite. So I try and keep it casual, so it's not like this awkward, like, interaction as much as possible.
And the moment that people express interest, like anytime that I invite, their name automatically goes on a list. And I do like a rotating door, like every 3 months, they're getting an invite from me. Even if they said no, even if they haven't liked anything in those 3 months, they're getting an invite because at one point they were interested.
Yeah, and 3 months is a good amount of time. Like, it's a new season.
Mm-hmm. And people are, might be more ready. And like, if you've been around longer than a year, like the people who are signing up are the people you've invited multiple times. So like, don't get discouraged when people say no. Like, I would say on average now, the people that I'm signing, I've invited at least 5 times, and so it's like, don't lose hope. They just go on your cycle that you'll invite again, because they will come because they're going to see you being consistent.
Yeah, exactly. Especially like, I've noticed, I used to think that like the New Year's, I was going to have like a ton of people sign up. And I feel like January is always a slow month because people are trying to do their own thing. And then they see that that thing isn't working, and then they come around. And so just like continuing to follow up, and also just know, like, how many people do we see come and go in network marketing or in any business where they don't stick around? The fact that you're still there in 6 months and you haven't forgotten and you're reaching out and inviting them again says a lot. And people want a coach that genuinely cares and keeps touching base and is leading from the front. So I love that idea of every 3 months. That's a good rotation. Anybody else? Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a challenge for the week. So because we're inviting mainly from stories or post interaction, I want you some point in the next week to find an authentic way to redirect people to your stories. So reference back to your stories on some level. And yeah, that's my challenge, to do that, just to kind of get more eyes on it. And don't forget, obviously you have Facebook and Instagram views. So I usually will rotate, like every other day. I'll do Instagram and then Facebook and vice versa. I feel like I get more new eyes on Facebook stories, surprisingly. So that's your challenge. Reference back to your story to kind of get people in, and make sure that if you're referencing them to your stories, you have good content and you also have an invite to your challenge group within that 24-hour window that they're seeing. So I'll post something, but I know that last night I posted about my challenge group. So they're going to see that as they get through to the good stuff. So that's my challenge for you guys this week. I'm excited to hear how you kind of implement Instagram stories and find a fit that works best for you. And just remember, do whatever feels authentic to you. And if you're yourself, you will find your tribe of like-minded women or men, whatever your community is. All right. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.